Hello and welcome to Frontrunner Motorsport. And today we are going to do a Formula 1 preview, which we don't normally do. I do reviews after every Formula 1 Grand Prix, but we've never looked at the race before it actually starts. So this has been recorded on Friday, but it's going to be released on Saturday. So there may be updates in between. But I'm just going to cover a few points that have happened this week, because it's been quite busy for news. We'll talk about Lewis Hamilton testing positive for COVID. We have George Russell moving up to Mercedes for the weekend. Jack Aitken coming into Williams to replace him. We have Pietro Fittipaldi joining Haas. We've got Haas's new driver lineup. So we have plenty to talk about. And as it turns out, this race at Sakhir might actually turn out to be one of the most interesting Formula 1 races for a long time, just because so many things have happened. So we're in an unknown realm here for a lot of drivers. So with that, sit back, relax, and let's begin.
Welcome to Frontrunner Motorsport.
So we'll start with the biggest one, Lewis Hamilton. Testing positive for COVID. I'm surprised more drivers this year haven't. I know both Racing Point drivers did, and they had Nico Hülkenberg in to replace him. I was kind of hoping Nico Hülkenberg would replace Lewis Hamilton because that's his best chance ever of getting a podium in Formula 1. And he has that long streak of not doing that. And I like Nico Hülkenberg. I would like to see him have some success and just get that off his back. The other driver who was in contention was Stoffel van Dorn, who is Mercedes test driver and Formula E driver. Finished second in the Formula E Championship. I was almost certain they'd bring him up because he's also experienced in Formula 1. I heard Esteban Gutierrez's name battered around as well, but he doesn't have a super racing license, and frankly, who would ever want Esteban Gutierrez in their team? So the obvious choice would be between Stoffel van Dorn and the other person I said. Same goes for Nick de Vries. I know he's doing well in Formula E and he's a Formula 2 champion, but he's not got any Formula 1 experience, so I wasn't expecting him to be named. So I thought it'd be between Stoffel van Dorn and Nico Hülkenberg. As it turned out, I was completely wrong, and they brought George Russell up to the Mercedes team, which actually makes a lot of logical sense, because he's the driver who's probably going to get the Mercedes drive when either or both of Hamilton and Bottas leave. So George Russell gets his first Mercedes start, and he can finally have the best opportunity in his career so far to score an F1 point, which he's not yet managed. Interesting choice. I like George Russell. I think he's a good driver who hasn't been able to show what he's capable of yet. It'll be interesting to see how he does, with a lot of pressure on him really, to jump into a Mercedes and do as well as Lewis Hamilton. We'll have to see how well he does. He's got the experience of the 2020 cars, but obviously the Mercedes probably drives differently from the Williams. It won't be at the back for a start. So we'll have to see how he does. I'm expecting second behind Bottas because I think Mercedes will want Bottas to secure second in the championship anyway. So George Russell will play like rear gunner to him. But it'll be interesting to see how he does. As for Lewis Hamilton, I'm sure he'll be back for Abu Dhabi. I hope he's not too ill. But this season for him, I mean, it's the one where he's broken the most records, potentially, I guess. I don't know how many records he's broken in previous seasons. I'm not really that fussed. I don't think this has been his greatest year. This is the year we've seen him make mistakes. The penalties in Monza and somewhere else. I've forgotten where. Was it Spa? Can't remember. He hasn't been completely infallible this year. And yet, he's still dominating. Which, A, shows how bad Valtteri Bottas is, and secondly, how far everyone else is behind Mercedes, which is the usual argument. But he still hasn't signed a contract for 2021, despite Mercedes saying talks were beginning, I think either last week or the week previously. So I imagine at some point, probably the end of the season, they will announce that Lewis Hamilton will be with the team in 2021. But I think that may be his last year. With the regulations changing after that, he doesn't need to stay around for that. So he himself has said he wants a few more years. To me, that doesn't make sense. Moving on to Haas. Thankfully, Romain Grosjean is okay. I think he's got broken ribs and some bad burns. But he won't be at Sakhir this weekend. Well, he will be there, but he's not racing. He has been replaced by Pietro Fittipaldi, who will become the fifth member of the Fittipaldi family to race in Formula 1. Even the casual fans out there will know that Emerson Fittipaldi was a great racing driver in Formula 1. His brother also raced in the series. Wilson Fittipaldi had his own team. Emerson drove for him late on in his career, and launched a career of Keke Rosberg. I can't remember if Keke drove for ATS or Fittipaldi Racing first, but he did drive for that team. Might have got a podium or something with him. So yeah, that's two of them. Christian Fittipaldi raced in the 90s with Minardi and Footwork, and he was a good driver, but never really got given a chance in Formula 1, sadly. I think he went over to America, did quite well in IndyCar. So that's 3 members. You also have Max Papis, who I think is married to either, I guess, Christian's sister, but he is Pietro Fittipaldi's uncle. He had a very brief time in Formula 1, I think either with Arrows or Minardi. But yeah, so that's Pietro Fittipaldi would be number 5, and considering his brother Enzo Fittipaldi also races in single-seaters, there's potential for a 6th member of the Fittipaldi family to race in Formula 1, which is pretty impressive. Pietro, a few years ago, I think he won the V8's 3.5 series. He looked really good. Haas signed him up as a test driver. It looked almost certain that he was going to get a Formula 1 drive. It's not so clear in recent times. He raced in DTM in 2019 and didn't have a great season. And he doesn't really get mentioned a lot now. He gets test drives and that, obviously, but I think his stock has fallen, and this is going to be an opportunity to prove himself. But considering Haas have already announced Mick Schumacher and Nikita Mazepin for 2021, there's no seat available for him next year, so he's going to have to hang on until probably Mick Schumacher moves up. That's a shame. He's in danger of becoming a one-race wonder, which is a series I do, which you should totally check out now, playlist in the description. But this may be his only chance, and I hope he takes it as best he can, because Haas aren't in a great position on the grid, and also, he's going to be inexperienced at this level. So it's going to be a case of surviving, I think, for Pietro Fittipaldi rather than impressing, unfortunately. And this may be his only Formula 1 race. Same goes for Jack Aitken. He is a Williams test driver, and obviously Williams needed to have the seat filled for George Russell. Interesting choice. I mean, he's the obvious one if he is their test driver, which he is. But he is quite average at Formula 2 level. He's got a few wins, but he's not overly impressive. So I think it'll be a struggle for him. And again, it's a case of getting used to the car at this level, and probably a case of surviving. And with Williams where they are, he's going to do well to finish last. But if he finishes, he'll have done a good job. But he's another one in danger of becoming a one-race wonder, because obviously Williams have announced that George Russell and Nicholas Latifi will be there next year. So unless Lewis Hamilton retires from Motorsport and George Russell jumps into the Mercedes team, Jack Aitken's going to have nowhere to go. So 2 drivers who need to impress are Jack Aitken and Pietro Fittipaldi. So they'll be the ones to keep eyes on, I think. As for Mick Schumacher, he's got a chance to win the Formula 2 championship this year, so I can see why they didn't choose him to race for Haas. He's a great driver. He was Formula 3 European champion. He's taken a while to get right up there in Formula 2. I think he had 1 podium or something last year, but this year he's probably by far the clear favourite of the series at the start, and he has pretty much secured it ahead of Callum Ilott. It'll be interesting to see, because pretty much all the racing finishes this weekend. But I think Mick Schumacher's a decent choice for Haas next year. Nikita Mazepin, I'm not so sure about. He's a bit more average. I think he's only 4th or 5th in the championship. He's capable, but he's got a lot of money behind him, so he'll bring that to Haas, which they probably need as well. But all in all, it's an interesting race at Sakhir this weekend. There's a lot of moving to and fro. It's funny that we started the year with 1 debutant, and then this one race has 2. Interesting to see where they finish. I haven't got high hopes for either of them, but I hope they at least give good accounts of themselves. As for that, Sakhir itself has never been a track I'm overly fond of. It was okay. Last weekend's Grand Prix was a bit dull. This is a different track layout, so we'll have to see how it does. If it's better than the normal track, I hope and pray we use it from every Grand Prix we have at Bahrain after this. But it's an interesting one. We're going to have to... We'll be here Sunday talking about it, and my prediction is Mercedes 1-2 with Bottas ahead of Russell, unless something goes wrong, and it may be optimistic to say Russell finishing 2nd, but Russell at least scoring points. Verstappen will be up there. As for the fight for 4th, I mean, that was a huge blow for Sergio Perez last week, but he's a decent enough driver and experienced enough to pick himself up, so between him, Ricciardo, Leclerc, probably Albon and the McLarens, it's hard to tell still with 2 races left who's going to finish 4th. So that's where the interest in the championship lies. So I will see you Sunday. Remember to subscribe. We're getting more and more all the time. Share, leave a comment, leave a like, whatever you want to do. Thank you for watching and have a good one.